According to the World Health Organization's Global Status Report on Alcohol and Health 2014, among people who drink alcohol, approximately 16% of those aged 15 or older engage in heavy episodic drinking, defined by the report as 60 or more grams 2.5 ounces of pure alcohol on at least one single occasion at least monthly. What's more, in 2012, 5.9% of all global deaths were due to alcohol consumption. The World Health Organization affirms that alcohol can lead to many negative consequences, including dependence and increased risk of more than 200 diseases, violence, and injuries. What happens to your body when you consume too much alcohol, and how can you tell you're drinking too much? Stay tuned to find out. What happens to your body when you drink too much? Having a few drinks from time to time is usually not dangerous. Study suggests that drinking alcohol in moderation could even lower a person's risk of coronary heart disease. It becomes problematic when we drink alcohol too often or drink too much at once. Overconsumption of alcohol affects the body in many ways. According to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, health consequences can include liver damage such as steatosis and cirrhosis, heart problems like cardiomyopathy, stroke, and high blood pressure, increased risk of developing to certain cancers, a weakened immune system, and mood and behavioral changes. You may be drinking too much if you're always hungover the next morning, partied hard on the weekend. If you overdo it once in a while, that's not necessarily something to be concerned about, but it is worrisome if you arrive at work every Monday with a hangover. The 2015 to 2020 Dietary Guidelines for Americans recommends that if alcohol is to be consumed, it should be in moderation, which is defined as up to 1 drink per day for women and up to 2 drinks per day for men. You may be drinking too much if you drink every day. Drinking alcohol in small quantities from time to time isn't anything to worry about. However, if you feel you cannot go a day without drinking, you may have a dependence on alcohol. You may be drinking too much if you can't stop after 1 or 2 drinks. You're enjoying dinner with friends, and you order a round of drinks. While your friends stop after 1 or 2 drinks, you keep going. You can't seem to stop drinking. This behavior may indicate a dependence on alcohol. The National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism defines low-risk drinking as no more than 3 drinks on any single day and no more than 7 drinks per week for women, and no more than 4 drinks on any single day and no more than 14 drinks per week for men. If you can't stay within these limits, you may be putting your health at risk. You may be drinking too much if it often makes you sick. Maybe you've been sick after drinking too much, and you realize that you went over your limit. But if you wind up with your head in the toilet bowl every time you drink alcohol, that's a clear sign you're drinking too much. According to Youre, the UK Chief Medical Officer recommends that men and women drink no more than 14 units of alcohol per week in order to minimize health risks from alcohol consumption, with 1 unit containing 8 grams, or 0.34 ounces, of pure alcohol. There may be negative consequences for your health if you tend to exceed these limits. You may be drinking too much if you've experienced symptoms of withdrawal. For people with a dependence on alcohol, it can be very difficult to suddenly stop drinking. They might even experience delirium tremens, which according to Medline Plus is a severe form of alcohol withdrawal that causes sudden and severe mental or nervous system changes. Symptoms can include delirium, body tremors, irritability, hallucinations, and quick mood changes, among others. You may be drinking too much if you've hallucinated during or after drinking. Normally, drinking alcohol should not cause hallucinations. However, auditory hallucinations can occur as a rare side effect of chronic alcohol abuse, according to the Industrial Psychiatry Journal. This is known as alcoholic hallucinosis. If this has ever happened to you, it's important to see a doctor as soon as possible. You may be drinking too much if you often experience gaps in memory. If you've ever had trouble remembering what happened after a night of heavy drinking, You already know that consuming alcohol in large quantities affects short-term memory. According to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, a few drinks are enough to cause detectable impairments in memory. If you often experience these memory lapses, you may be drinking too much alcohol. You may be drinking too much if you feel anxious when you can't drink, you're at work, and you suddenly get the urge to drink. You know that you can't have a drink, so you begin to panic or feel anxious. This could mean that you have developed a dependence on alcohol, and you should review your daily intake of alcoholic beverages. You may be drinking too much if you keep a bottle stashed away, at work, in the car, at home, and even in your bag. You always have a bottle nearby in case you feel the need to drink. This is a sign of alcohol dependence and indicates you are probably drinking too much. You may be drinking too much if you sometimes lose consciousness after drinking. In comedies, we sometimes see characters lose consciousness after drinking too much. Unfortunately, this is a real phenomenon and not something to be taken lightly. Loss of consciousness is a symptom of alcohol poisoning, and can lead to death, explains the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. If you sometimes pass out after drinking, it's critical that you reduce your alcohol consumption so as not to put your life at risk. You may be drinking too much if someone has confronted you about your alcohol consumption. Your partner, your friends, or your parents have commented on your excessive consumption of alcohol. Maybe you agree with them, or maybe you think they're wrong. High-functioning alcoholics often experience a deep level of denial, explains Sarah A. Benton in Psychology Today. This denial can manifest itself in a number of ways, Benton writes, including believing they are not alcoholics because their lives are still manageable, avoiding recovery help because they think the problem is not serious, and comparing themselves favorably to alcoholics whose drinking has led them to more dire circumstances. You may be drinking too much if you frequently drink alone. Having a beer alone after a long day doesn't make you an alcoholic. On the other hand, if you find yourself drinking more often alone than with friends, you may be drinking too much. You may be drinking too much if you have a beer belly. The study demonstrates that there is a link between having a surplus of fat around the midsection and alcohol consumption. In other words, the more alcohol a person drinks, the more likely they are to gain weight, especially in the abdominal area. Where can you go for help if you think you have a drinking problem? If you think you have a drinking problem, there are many resources you can turn to for help. If you're concerned about your health, start by seeing your doctor. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, runs a national helpline, a free and confidential treatment referral and information service for individuals and families facing mental and/or substance use disorders. The service is available in English and Spanish, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. In the UK, you can contact Drinkline, a free and confidential helpline that offers information and advice to callers concerned about their own or someone else's drinking. In Australia, the Alcohol Drug Information Service, ADIS, provides support, information, counseling, and referral services for people experiencing issues with alcohol or other drugs. In Canada, there are helplines that provide information on treatment services for every province and territory. Visit the Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction for details. Don't hesitate to reach out for help if your alcohol consumption is interfering with your life.